Hi, I'm here with Stephan Koch, who's the Commuter Plan Manager in University College Cork, and also the Chair of the Transport and Mobility Forum and one of our stakeholders in the Embracer Interreg project. The Embracer Interreg project is all about connecting public transport with informal modes in the periphery, underserved areas. I know that's a big issue in UCC, where students that are further away have greater difficulty accessing the campus via public transport. So could you maybe give me a few ideas of what would make it easier for those students in the peripheral areas to access UCC via public transport?
Yeah, thanks, Darren. You're absolutely right. We do our annual travel service. I just conducted it 2 weeks ago, and the trend continues that more and more students are coming from further afield, are not coming from within 2 or 5 kilometer distance maximum, where there is no problem with public transport, let's say in general, because we have a dense and very frequent city bus network. When people are coming from beyond the city limit and the limit of this city bus network, indeed it is difficult to get on the bus, because first of all, we're not talking about buses anymore, we're talking about coaches. There are no standees. When the bus is full, when all seats are taken, the bus is full, they can't take any more passengers. Second, where do these routes operate and where do people live? Unless they are able to walk or cycle or being dropped off by a neighbor, by a parent, by another family member to the bus, it is hard to get to the bus. And this is actually the crux here, apart from the kind of very low frequency, every half hour if you're lucky, maybe every hour only when you're a little bit off the high frequent routes. How would you actually get to public transport? And here is a connection from housing areas, which can very often get very scattered in Ireland, outside the peri-urban area. How do you get people from housing estates at the periphery of commuter towns to the town center, to the bus stop, which is further away than 2 or 3 or 4 kilometers. And here's something like what we've seen in Leipzig, for instance, the Flexer service, the minibus service that actually connects or increases the catchment area up to a radius of 5-6 kilometers and reliably gets you to, in Leipzig was a tram stop, here would be a higher frequency country bus route. Or even if you're just beyond the city limit, to connect to the terminus of the city buses, this would do an awful lot of good to get more people onto public transport. And our figures have shown, particularly for 2 areas that we asked to at the western periphery of the city, just beyond the city limits, they have the highest share of car use, the students coming to the city, because it is close enough to have a short car trip, but getting to public transport is really an issue. And here is, I think, a big gap that we need to fill here with some other forms below the traditional scheduled bus on a fixed route that we need to fill. And unfortunately, there is very little here so far in the plans in Cork, and that's where we can learn a lot from the other partners around Europe in the Embracer project.
Thanks. It appears very clear that other than capacity, the big issue is getting people to the bus stops to make those. So what we've seen as a good practice in the Embracer project is those examples of that on-demand service. That's a smaller. Now, the other solution to that is, of course, the micromobility solutions, cycling, scooters and whatever. Do you see that they have a role in those sort of areas for college students?
It depends, I guess. I mean, we're talking about smaller peripheral towns like Bandon or like on the other side, Carrigaline. I think in a place like Carrigaline, a scooter service, a bike service can actually do the job, because it is kind of still inner urban. If you talk about scooters and if you talk about places like Bandon or beyond, where people have to use a country road or local road that is outside the build-up area, it would be a little bit daring, I'd say, to go on a scooter there, particularly in winter evenings. It depends on what area we're talking about.
So I think the key message there is that different solutions are suitable for different areas, that there isn't a single solution.
As usual, there's no one-size-fits-all. Every location has its own difficulty. There might be 2 or 3 solutions that might be applicable here or there, and solution B would rather fit there. But there is a lot out there that still is not really reflected here in Irish transport planning, that we can learn from the partners and see what would best fit for each individual case here in Ireland.
That's great. Thanks very much.